If I see a light, I know I'm going. Hello. So maybe my Thanks for making.
Yeah, thanks for coming out.
What?
I said thanks for coming out.
Yeah.
You're a vocalist, right? You're both vocal people.
I'm a wannabe string player, but I'm a singer. I started late. I started in cello, and then my hands don't work for that. So,
For cello, yeah.
Well, you know, I gave the cello to my husband, and we were both playing it for a while. That doesn't work in a string quartet, right? There's only one cello, so I took a viola, which is crazy because it's not easy. And I was a clarinet player, which is also another thing you want to be as a vocalist because you use all the throat muscles. It's also good. I've taught other things. I sort of, yeah, I come from a family of crazy musicians. So. And when I was growing up, they're all older than me. You didn't choose music as a career because you couldn't make money. But the amazing thing is they all do music avocationally, and then they all became teachers in their second career. So I think that's part of it. Oops, she wants to get it that way. Is it open? Let's see. I hope so. What did you say? What did you say?
It's fine, it's all good.
I said voice with the roof is really.
Just remember to look at that. Once I'm done.
Also with this. Lovely. Lovely. Very lucky.
Are you also a vocalist? Are there all vocal people so far?
Yeah, but I also study piano. I'm gonna teach piano.
That's great. I think I saw you sing in the chamber music class last semester.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was like your last rehearsal before the concert, and I came and spoke to the class.
Yeah. What kind of chamber music?
Basically,
What kind you were singing in the class? Was it with strings or with piano or?
it was just with piano.
Which is pretty important for us. Here's this beautiful space. We should be making. We'll make sound in a minute. I'll give them another 3 minutes. What do you think?
Sure.
I could go on forever about musicianship and music training, but I'll hold off until I see. Just give the rainy people who know. Usually when I come across the river, it's either the sun straight on my ass because I come in the early morning, or it's like the weather's totally different over here than it is over there. Like you guys got a ton of snow a little while ago, and we got none.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah, we're really down. We need it desperately. And what was it? Were you in your shorts yesterday? It was like 60 degrees. Crazy.
Yeah.
Spring.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
think? March can be really, in April it could be even worse, but it only lasts a little bit then. If you get it now, it could last, but it's not going to stay cold. This is not winter for me. Definitely not.
You miss it?
Oh, I grew up in northern New York, near the Canadian border.
So,
Just
like home. Yeah.
Well, my sister lives in Rochester. My best friend lives in Buffalo. And even then, when you're off the Great Lakes, you get all this snow, right? Where are you from?
Pittsburgh area.
Pittsburgh, you know all about Erie snow.
Yeah.
How about you? Where are you from?
I'm from the other side of the earth. Basically from the future.
I love that.
I travel 12 hours by the time to come here.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, I know.
I'm from Vietnam.
Are you? Okay. I'm working two students of my husband. My husband has taught English at Manhattan School of Music. He also is a graduate of Manhattan School of Music. He's also a singer. And he gave them pieces of music that I'm very familiar with that were written for me. So I'm coaching a couple of Vietnamese students online from Manhattan School. And, hey, they can do all the research in terms of everything, but it's sort of American folk type music. And I said, come on, think about what folk music is in Vietnam. people music. It's all about people. So we had a nice exchange. And where are you from? Might as well.
I'm from California and Maryland.
What part of California?
The beach cities.
Ah, right in the
Southern
front.
California. Sort of nearby Los Angeles, but not in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
I was born in Long Beach, that's why I
I was
Oh,
born in Torrance.
lovely. You see, you're all from the West, and we're from the East. Yeah. There is no, it is a global place now. We just have to help make sure everyone can get where they need to go, regardless of what's in the air. Well, I brought this, and I've sent Blanche my notes for today, which I might glance at occasionally. They're there. And I also am going to run you through a couple of exercises, which I think are good for when you're in a private lesson and you're finding that you're not getting what you want, including your own, you know. I've used a lot of disciplines in my life. I started out a family musician, and I studied piano, and I was going to be a piano major. But I don't like being in a practice room all by myself. I don't. And I spent my high school years literally like trying to find people to make music with me. So I'm really more of a group musician, which is why my aunt, who was a choral music director, said, "Oh, you should be in chamber music. You should do chamber music." But I really wanted to be a singer. Singers in chamber music. At the time I was growing up, there were groups on television that were choruses. There were the king singers, all men, and there were like, what? And now there's tons of a cappella vocal music, which is what I did for 30 years of my life. Touring the United States and all over with a group called the Western Wind. Like all chamber music groups, my tenure did not end happily. There was a large explosion. The group still exists. The original members are all gone. That's okay because the people move on. But yes, we had a disagreement. So I left with 4 other people. That's what happens. Yeah, you know, you're in a group of 6 people and 2 people have all the power. That's not democracy. And I'm big on everybody has a say. So speak up today. I've studied lots of different things. I did not want to be a music teacher, ever. I did not want to teach private lessons. I didn't want to be a choral director. And yet, what did I end up doing? Well, I took a lot of classes, mostly from people who are performers who are really good teachers. I was so lucky. And most of them told me how to cope with the times when you're not having success, either. And now I learned, oh, 3 to 5-year-olds? That's what I teach here at Bard, the first class, on Saturday morning at 9 o'clock. You could come anytime and watch. You're more than welcome. But there, it's like chaos. And so you try to get everyone to do the same thing. If I was in a room by myself with them, I would be much better off. But still, there's a moment in every child's hour where they can't focus. They can't do what you want them to do. So I learned a lot of techniques through my teachers, some of them, through books. I sent Blanche the list of books that I've used a lot, and the first one on the list that I always think of is Eloise Riestad, an old-timey piano teacher, who wrote a book called A Soprano on Her Head. You should read it, it's kind of fun. She did a lot of workshops. I think she's a Californian, actually, I've forgotten now. One of the things she talks about is the way we read. Right to left, up and down, left to right. All of those things are important, and they have to do with the 2 hemispheres of the body. Are you aware of the 2 hemispheres of your body? Have you ever heard of this discussion before, right? And I always forget, correct me if I'm wrong. So this is my left hand, and this is my creative side. And this is my right hand, and this is my analytical side. People practice alternate nostril breathing in order to integrate both parts of them. Eloise Riestad was one of the first people who understood how body posture and the way you present yourself as singers. Yes. Yes. I mean, would your teacher let you play like this?
Never.
Never. I know, this is hard for me because, I'm learning how to, sit in the tripod and do the whole thing. Eloise Riestad talks a lot about note reading. She actually turned a piano score sideways, so the clefs were at the bottom. No, turned it this way, so the clefs are at the top, so there's the left hand and there's the right hand. And she taught kids how to play like that. Because there's so many different ways our brains work. Will you be my guinea pig?
Sure.
Okay. So the other thing she did was play ball toss. And this is hand-eye coordination, and that's all it is. And you could talk, and you say, Blanche, what did you have for breakfast? And she'll,
I had a toast. What'd you have?
toast? Oh, I had 7-grain cereal and banana bread with cream cheese and coffee. Yes, I did. Are you ready? So this is just hand-eye coordination, which we all supposedly have, yes. But what this, do you feel the inside of your body all of a sudden go,
Definitely.
yes, it's a total energetic thing, and I don't know why. Tell me your name.
Mara.
Mara, how far do you have to travel to get home today?
2 seconds.
2 seconds, you're so close, you're so lucky.
Yeah.
So you don't take the bus, you walk.
Yes.
And how fast do you walk?
Pretty fast.
Yeah.
How fast
And
do you
not as fast as me, Mara. So you can already feel.
Yes.
And this is another exercise. Stage director. Peter, opera. Peter.
Sellers?
No, could be, but I don't think it is. I learned it from New York City Opera. He does a quiz, the things that you have to know to be an opera singer. First you have to do math problems because you have to count the measures, and then the other thing is you have to feel the emotions, and then you have to do your blocking, so you have to know where to walk. So it's like spatial, emotional, analytical, and then there's another one. Your own. The emotional thing is what the character has, but then you have your own emotions. Like, you ready? Tell me your name.
Taylor.
Taylor. Taylor, what's your favorite color?
Green.
What's your favorite movie?
The Bad Ugly.
That's a good one. I know. See, I would have said Parenthood.
It's like
my
so
favorite
long.
movie. I know. When did you see a movie last? Right? When was the last movie you saw?
Oh, God.
Long time ago.
Yeah.
How many years?
2 at least.
3, 4, 5. And what's your favorite airline?
American.
See now, you're really good. He's really good at releasing the ball, right? And all this is I know, it's a brain exercise. So coming into any strange place, in a strange room, in a strange person, and I'm just putting you on the spot, I'm so glad I found my ball. This is my favorite. Eloise Riestad, I think, used a tennis ball for older students. But and I used to institute this with ensembles of singers. We just toss the ball around, but you have to make eye contact. That's the other thing. Tell me your name.
Let me change it.
Okay, you want to go over? You want to go all the way? Okay. And tell me your name.
I'm Bibi.
Bibi. Okay. Bibi. I have to think of more questions. This is the hard part for me. Bibi, what did you play on the piano yesterday?
I practiced at like 3 p.m. to 5 p.m.
And what did you play?
We play Mendelssohn's Fantasy.
Ooh.
Yeah, I played the second movement.
Have you ever sung? That's good. Have you ever sung any songs by Mendelssohn?
I don't remember. Oh, I did.
Oh yes.
Oh no, it's another.
Not Mendelssohn. Schumann.
Yeah.
Schubert.
Schumann, yes.
Yes, that's a good. And what's your voice part? Sorry, that's me.
Soprano.
Soprano. Okay. How about you, Mara? What's your voice part? Mezzo. How about you, Taylor? Okay, thank you. So you see, this is how we make eye contact and we work. And you can stay there, you can move around as you will. I'm not going to throw the ball anymore. Eloise used this, first of all, for a chamber music student who was having trouble tracking the music, that is, reading it from left to right. And the other thing that she used it for was interim, like, I'm trying to think, like a young teenager who came in really depressed. It's like, I can't play today. I don't feel it. I don't wanna. And so they said, well, okay. And she even did rolling the ball. And formatively, I remember my godmother, who was a teacher, she would roll the ball to me when I was tiny, and do rhymes and words. and, you know, rolling the ball. Here's a Dalcroze exercise. This is for littler kids, and it's just roll and catch, roll and catch, roll and catch, roll and catch. Ooh, I was gonna make you out, right? Roll and catch, roll and catch, roll and catch, roll and catch. So that's just changing tempos, and you could go roll and catch, roll and catch, roll and catch, roll and catch. And it's your job to sing the way the ball goes. That's just connection. The ball is a connection. It's really hand-eye coordination. It's huge. That's one of my toys. I'm a big believer in toys. I'm a big believer in sharing part of yourself with that person. So I just told you about my godmother. I told you so many personal things already. I'm a girl, what's your superpower? Tchotchkes. I'm a believer in this for little kids. I used to work with someone that I did not respect very much, who had tons of toys on his desk. And I thought they were juvenile. And he taught small people. And to me, those things were juvenile to him. But these are things that I care about. So I didn't have to have his toys, I have my own. And since I have a parent who knew that I loved toys, brought me back my Mozart pencil. There's Mozart. He's already lost his shoe. He's been around with me for about 6 years. I take attendance with Mozart in my class. Now we talk about Mozart. And it came from Vienna, and it says Mozart right on it. And we have to explain that he lived at the time of George Washington, because he wears that funny hair, and he has this funny thing. But he lost his shoe last year, so now he gets called Mozart Cinderella. So that's. So I also have the requisite pens. What's your favorite color? Everyone in my class knows my favorite color is pink. It just is pink. I don't wear pink, I have pink. And these are tiny little things that if you share them with a student, and one of my favorite conductors told me this, sometimes he shared some things, it's like, wow, I didn't really want to know that, but I know, but music making is highly personal, and if your students can own a little bit of you, or know a little bit about you, like where you're from, like who you care about, who are your people, who are your significant others. I told a bunch of 3-year-olds the other, last week that I have 2 older brothers and 2 older sisters. We were talking, so we were doing levels of music. We were doing do, mi, sol. I'm not using a tuning fork yet, but I will in a minute. And those are all my toys. And I said, you know, like hopping up on the top bunk. But you don't know nowadays if kids even have siblings who have a top bunk. So one of the girls said, I have a top bunk. I said, which part do you sleep in? I sleep in the bottom. Why? My mom doesn't want me on the top. I said, that was the same with my mom. You had a sister on the top bunk? I said, yeah, I have 2 sisters. They're like, wow. So later on she said, so how come you're the youngest? God bless. And I said, I was born last. She said, but how can you be young? Of course, they're looking at my hair. But well, how old are you? I'm 63. Wow. So now they have this part. You know, I'm as old as their grandparents or their parents, right? But that's the thing. They need to have, and right now more than ever, oh, you guys, it's so different now. A lot of kids do not have the social gathering place. They can't be in a group of people. I have had 4 and 5-year-olds come with their parents to my classroom, and right now we're topping out at 15 or 16. It's a little bit too many, but I have help. Sometimes the kids have to go, and the parents, she's never seen this many children in a room. So that's something you have to be very aware of right now. If you're going to go teach, you're going to have to do some social, emotional connection, which is why I think it's important. And you know how you feel. You know how you feel about your private teachers, right? Can you think of someone in your musical history that is your private teacher that you would like, that you just think is just the best person ever? Someone who really influenced you? I got several. I was lucky. And then you might think of someone who's like, Maybe you haven't had as many teachers as I have in my life, but some teachers I have left because their concern was not mine. And I was very lucky to be given that opportunity. But there's some professors you're never going to get along with. There's some musicians in the world that you're never going to get along with. You can try and work in situations. The same is true with kids. They need to feel like they belong. So the circle is the big thing, or the physical connection of looking at someone's eyes and seeing them and knowing, okay, I have their full attention. Right now, it's like every kid needs your full attention in every classroom. But we try to share, and we try to make sure that everyone has their time. So we use tongue depressors with their name on it, and we pull it out and say, hey, and you can ask the question, Hazel, what did you have for breakfast today? And then you can, and someone else wants to tell you what they had for breakfast today, and I said, well, you have to wait your turn. If I pull your name out of the cup, you can tell us. So that's the classroom management of more than one. Can you imagine yourself in a room with 12 5-year-olds? Just think, yeah? Yeah. You know any 5-year-olds right now? You know a few 5-year-olds. They're like, it's physical. This is the physical part. I'm a strong believer in water. If you have some, drink some. I'm going to do it right now. It's not part of your requirement today, but this is what I would normally have every kid do. I always have water in my classroom. I always drink it. It was hard with wearing a mask. It was hard because I had to let it go away. By the way, in my teaching, I wore a clear mask here, and it always bogged up, and I'd go over and soap it, and it would always bog up. By the end of 4 hours, it was just crazy, but it was something I still did. Okay, stand up. This is called brain gym. Brain gym is a godsend, and it was used in an opera production I did with a few people that I would say probably were either ADHD or slightly challenged and needed accommodation for their executive functioning, which is, I think, a lot of us, but that's okay. Brain gym is a wonderful discipline which you can learn. It's all about this connection that we have here in the middle of our body that we need to blend. So first thing, put your hands together like this for me. And this is your pointer. And if you have a student who has trouble tracking, we usually use it from left to right. We say, oh, this is the way it goes. If you have trouble reading words and music at the same time, this is ideal. Because the words are on one side and the music's on the other. It's crazy. We have to integrate it. Singers have an advantage, as do string players who cross. The studies have been done. Cellists are open string players. VL players, gamba players, they don't cross. But people who cross the meridian, like a violinist and a violist, we have much better skills. Okay, that's just the beginning exercise. That's the beginning exercise. We're going to cross crawl up. This is called pace, one of the things that Blanche can send you. There's a Brain Gym book. I do carry it with me. It's fabulous. It's a tiny little book. Maybe it cost me $5 back then. The first thing we're going to do is cross crawl. Take your right hand and put it on your knee. Take your left hand and put it in. And just walk for a little bit. So this is kind of a thing where you go across your body. And now if you want to get fancy, you can just, if you've got somebody in a chair, you can just have them cross this way. But it's really cool when you go behind your back. I can't go to this side, I can do this side. And that's called cross crawl. And that's okay, that's good. Before I took the test when I was a little kid, I used to twist my body up like this. Can you twist? And I used to be able to put my foot behind the other one, but I can't. And I used to look at my test paper for a long time. And I learned later on that was literally crossing your body to take a test. I know foul shooters who do this before they pick it up, just to get their body integrated so they can do this. That's cross crawl. The two places underneath your collarbone, I wear an open shirt, with your hand, your middle finger and your thumb, these two places right here, soft places right there, they connect an artery to your brain. And so if I do this, I used to teach at a school, rest your hand for a minute. I used to teach at a school where boys had to wear ties. So it was always like, you put your hand over your tie. And I would do this usually in the afternoon because academics were in the morning and music was in the afternoon. And I would have kids complain that this hurt because they didn't have enough airflow to their brain. So this part of the body gets tired. So literally, if you're tired, and I've been known today, this really revives everything. Plus, in fact, you have to make sure your neck is not stiff. That's called brain buttons. If you study the art of Tai Chi or Qigong, these are other disciplines which can help you with body energy. And I'm a big fan of this, especially for everybody. I say this for singers, but you know, it's just we're outnumbering you today. It's really important to keep your energy and your posture and your being. I'm inhabiting my space. My feet are underneath my shoulders, and I'm going to use my right shoulder, my left shoulder, my right shoulder, my left shoulder. And I do this with the little ones. They can really do this. And then you can do one of two things with older kids. I wouldn't do this with younger kids. Cross your hands behind your back and pull your shoulder blades together. And look up, just look up at the sky lightly, and then down at so that you have this kind of openness. This is incredibly important for string players. It's also part of the Feldenkrais. You know about Feldenkrais? You use it here? You have an instructor? It's a body discipline. How would you describe it? What is it like for you?
It's very minimalistic movement that kind of allows you to focus on other areas of your body at the same time and kind of connect everything. One of the voice professors here teaches it. So.
Yeah, I'm a big believer, and I know that there should be everybody on every, and I know people whose body problems have changed, you know, having carpal tunnel or having any kind of shoulder injury. It's really important. And I was also a person who was helped by Alexander technique, which is also another way. And for me, it was the cranial and sacral, because being a clarinet player, I did a lot of Cardassian movement, which is not good for you. And also, I have a fairly long neck, so it was always just how tall can I actually be? And this lady, a little tiny 8-year-old lady who practiced Alexander's technique, could pull your head right under your shoulders. It's amazing how much room there can be. So encouraging this kind of movement for kids. Now I'm teaching music and movement. So we're going to be a clock. And I'll go la da da dee da dee da dee da da. It's Mozart, you don't care. It's got variations and it goes on forever. I will sing and yes. Oh, did you all use your dominant hand? Did you use the hand you write with? Use the other one. Da 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 dee da 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 dee. Yeah, and so you get the idea. These are large movements. These are younger people. It can help if you've got someone singing something and they're not rhythmic. It can help if they've been sitting at a keyboard and then you have them go, dum, 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 dum. You know, my little ones, their feet will start to move. I unfortunately have a leg that doesn't work as well as it used to. I used to dance quite a bit. But I would literally, I would have, you know, I will have them with a scarf. We always have manipulatives when they're little. A ball, beanbags are problematic right now. And a scarf is particularly good. I didn't wear one today. But they can go up in the air and they float and they come down. Dalcroze eurythmics. Is that something you're familiar with? It's a French discipline from a man named Émile Jacques Dalcroze. He taught in the French Conservatory and he found that his students couldn't walk to a beat. You know? So I literally go to the piano and I play and the kids walk around and you walk again, you walk again, you walk again, you stop. And so that's the kind of thing. It's large movement. It has a rhythm, it has a tempo, you can change it, and the movement will help. I'm a big proponent of movement. have a seat, because you're going to do one more thing for brain gym, because it's important, and we're doing great. I will just tell you, it's the first thing they say is water, and then they do the brain buttons, which you could do anytime. And then they do the cross crawl, and the last one they do is something that a practitioner taught. Cross one leg over your knee. Let's see, I'm using my, let's see, I don't need to think about it. I'll just do it, and then I'll change. And then there's a foot on the floor. Use your corresponding hand to put your hand on your ankle. Now, you're wearing shoes, so you don't necessarily need to do this, but if you were wearing bare feet, which I am in my classes, by the way, there's no reason not to take off your shoes when you have a lesson. There's no reason not to be barefoot. There's no reason to wear shoes, ever. Shoes are not normal, and in every class I know, there's always one kid that's taking off their shoes, so everybody does. And we do much better. It's just my preaching. So I would normally not put my hand on my foot, but I'm going to put it over here. I'm going to hold on to this part of my foot. You can choose to just let your hand dangle. But what this is doing, as you see, there are two X's. There's one with my leg and one with my arm. And I'm crossing my meridian. And I'm also thinking about both of my back muscles, both of my sit muscles. There's one here and one here. The one where the foot is down is not really being stretched. This one is being stretched. Therefore, you've got to keep it even. So change legs. And put this hand on your knee and put this one over here. This is called Cook's hookup. What is so good about Mr. Cook is that he was a stroke victim, and he went on to learn to rehabilitate people in language and mostly by music, which we all know music therapy is a huge field, and tone therapy. So there are lots of disciplines you can study. You can do any kind of pedagogy, follow it to every degree, find a teacher that you really like that does it, look at a classroom, tons of stuff online, especially YouTube videos, I think, of kids 3rd grade and under. There are lots of really good teachers' examples of how they use music for expressive uses as well as the physical discipline of becoming a better musician. And it's, you know, I'm on a lifelong journey. So you just did Cook's hookup. Now you can just put your feet on the floor and just feel this kind of sitting up feeling. In a classroom with these are better chairs than most. Most classrooms don't have these. I have 3 positions. This is the ready position. This is the rest position. So you can have this kind of flat, but you have to keep your sit bones on the front part of the chair. Always, you have to be able to do this if you possibly can, and that helps the middle section. Obviously, a pianist would not play like this, but I usually have hands here. The little ones don't sit in chairs. They sit on the floor. It's hard for me, because I have trouble getting up, but I do it. So we're closer to the floor, we have bare feet. We alternate between storytelling, sharing, singing, and walking around and throwing things. So and it's like 5-minute intervals in a 45-minute period. So there's like 9 things I've got to think about. Usually I don't get through 9, because there's somebody that's got to go and somebody's got to have a drink, and I got to keep that little kid from crawling into those chairs, and it's all that. But I will say, Bard Prep is wonderful because it's by age, but we are pretty flexible in terms of, you know, who gets in. And I just had a mature 7-year-old just switch out because she was being annoyed by those little kids, and I so get it. So, you know, yeah. When have we not been annoyed with someone in our class, really? Rewards. I used to teach in a school where there was no food reward at all. So it was all about stickers. Are stickers your friend? I just brought the example of the favorite stickers now. It's the guitar stickers. And there are lots of places you can get them. I just do it because I think it's really important. So the soprano on her head, the brain gym, The Dalcroze was the music and movement, which is basically what I teach over here at Bard Prep, and then I have a couple choruses. The other two disciplines that I know about, and Blanche can tell you a lot more, is Suzuki discipline. Are you familiar with, what's his first name? I've forgotten.
Also starts with an S.
Yeah, it's bad. He came to the town where I grew up as, I finished my life as a high school musician and taught all the people that played in my orchestra. And that was like back in the early 70s. And yeah, Sashiko? No, that's a man, that's a woman's name. Anyway, bad.
Suzuki or something?
Yeah. Yensuke? Look it up. Suzuki. It's the main discipline of learning violin and stringed instruments and now piano, by ear only, and then you learn to read a little bit later. You learn by example. You learn physicality, I think, and rhythm a lot sooner than you learn. But you learn dynamics. So many things come before note reading. Kodai is another discipline that I've studied that's Hungarian. Are you familiar with him at all? Zoltán Kodai. Very famous, taught from the music of the people of Hungary. And he developed a discipline of using children's folk songs. Oh, Susanna, won't you cry for me, for I come from Alabama. That's one of our folk songs. They collected folk songs from his world, and then he sent people all over Europe, and they made huge collections of folk songs. The problem is they didn't really understand the cultures always, so when they came to collect American folk songs, they made a few mistakes, but American educators have corrected that. That's a discipline you can follow to help children learn music literacy really easily, and it's all done through solfeggio. And unlike here at Bard, I think your musicianship, you all learn fixed do. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Kodai uses movable do. There's 2 different systems. Oh my gosh! And then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Numbers, and then there's alphabet names. There's so many ways to learn music, whatever suits you. I'm a movable do person, but I've learned to teach do as do. That said, yes, I have toys. My favorite toy as a singer is the tuning fork. And I constantly, and this is my teacher from NYU, A440, do that for me in any octave, I don't care. A440, second space A, second space A. And you literally put your finger right there in the 5 lines, because there's F and A and C. And so you teach that. And in my school, 400 boys between the ages of kindergarten through 8, they would walk around either with a tuning fork or just walk up to me and say, Miss Clark, A440. At least they learned that with me. I just think, some kind of literacy with, there it is, 5 lines on the staff, that's where it is. And one of the things then you can do, high voice, low voice, you just start out with whatever they can grasp. Going down to 1, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you can do it that way. There's any number of ways. I do now fixed do from a lovely Dalcroze teacher who's in New York, whose name is Joy. So it's really good to find her. Joy would always teach with her hand like this. And fa's in its space in the very first space. You can look for a space. You can always find fa in the very first space. And she would teach that. They love that simple finger game. Away from the instrument, away from the piano, away from everything. It's very personal. And it's my hand, and it's not your hand, and you're not making my hand do anything. And F, E, C, and you can do any number of things. Where is your face? Yes. I can't quite get there today. Change to a mezzo. So the disciplines are numerous. YouTube is the best thing that's happened to music teaching because there's so many good teachers online. And I studied Dalcroze with Joy in New York 8 or 9 years ago. No, toys, anything that floats your boat. This is my African turtle. Go ahead and shake it. And if you drop it, it probably won't break. Isn't it lovely? It's a clay turtle. It has gold paint on it. We pass it around. I bought it on the street in New York at a street fair, and I have that. It means something to me. We have a joke in my family about turtles. Did you make it shake? It's right there. Get stuck. Shake harder. There it is. Yeah. It's lovely. So sometimes I pass around a magic object, and it's amazing how they can be so careful. I have squash shakers that are cats. I have toys. Where did your pencil case come from? It came from Japan. You were in Japan. So these kinds of things that we actually share with people can make a huge difference in their perception of what music making is, because it's not just, I have a lot of teachers who say, play the right notes. No, it's not about that. It's really not. With younger kids, I always ask a lot of questions. We're being sensitive. I have kids in the class whose names are Bowie, Calliope, Eo, Finn, that's pretty easy. Gender, you don't know, right? By knowing their names, you could guess, but you don't know. And the issue is, you have to learn to ask the right questions. So I practice, like, what did you have for breakfast, and what's your favorite color, and did you ever have another favorite color? It's always a good one to ask an older kid. But asking them questions so that they can answer and you can get information. With the 11 and 12-year-olds, we find out our differences. So-and-so, why do you always wear a dress? And this is a young person who was questioning the outfit of another person in the classroom who may have been going through some kind of transition at 7 or 8. Why do you always wear a dress? And that's a question, because that person doesn't wear a dress, but this person wears a dress. I like dresses. I like dresses too. Do you like dresses? Differences and samenesses. And it's a way of encouraging people to say, hey, but we're going to do this together. And so, having taught in an all-boys school for many years, and then going to a public school where it's much more fluid and the dress codes are different, that was a huge adjustment for me. Because in the all-boys school, we never, ever talked about clothing, ever. But now, in the free world, we're now learning to say, what's your preference? How do you want to be referred to? And it's happening all the way through the grades. So I'm learning not to assume, and I'm learning to try to be open. With the older kids, it's also, do you like so-and-so? And that's like totally off limits for me. Someone said, I hate Stephen Sondheim. I said, do you know Stephen Sondheim? No. Well, I just hate him. Why? There are too many words. And I'm like, okay, but do you know why he wrote so many words? So you have to like get at it. Because I worked with people who would say, I hate Mozart too. That would be like even worse. Concentration. There's a moment when everyone goes, oops, I lost that. Draw a spiral in the air for me. Just draw a spiral and make it go to a small point and then unwind it and make it go to a big point again. I don't know why, but this is like, do it again to go to the small point. You can use your other hand, you can make them opposites. Okay, this is brain gym again, but it's also concentration. I had a lovely musician who had about 7 minutes in, and then he would start drawing in the air. And finally I said, well, it'd be really helpful if you just put it on your folder, on his music folder. So he did. So he could do that anytime he liked. And he'd still be paying attention to me, but drawing spirals. It's what his therapist told him to do. So spirals have always been a thing for me of, you know, just, there's something about it which moves the brain and the body. I did this one to begin with. So I just want to know, I want to know 3 things. Think about this. Think about your favorite place, an actual physical place. Think about your shoes you don't have anymore. A pair of shoes, I'm assuming they're a pair, that you don't have anymore. And I'm doing this myself too. And trying to be non-specific, which is, you know, if I knew you better, I could be more specific. I asked you your favorite color, right? But think about in the movie. If you could be any kind of vegetable, if you could be a vegetable, you would transform yourself into a vegetable, what vegetable would you be? Now these are adult questions, but you can work on your questions, because sometimes it's just revelatory, what people really have inside their head. You don't have to answer it. But those are 3 things that I sort of had to think about, having spent some time with you. And my favorite place is in Canada, and I had a pair of blue Capezios, which I adored, which got stolen out of my car in New York. And I would be, it's called Witlof, and I don't know what it's called in English. It's a white cabbage that's really small. What do you call it? In Dutch, they call it Witlof. I can't think of it. My husband doesn't like it, so we never think of it, but I would be one if I could be. You braise it in butter, it's delicious. So when you're thinking about other people and music, all those other things can identify who they are. And if you share some of those things with them, they are much more in your camp. Now, I don't know if your teachers do that with you here. I don't know what your relationships are. You can decide whether it's too much or too little, but in my experience, the people that I've made music with successfully, I've always been a part of them. And we're talking professors too. And there are some that, you know, I don't think they knew how to be there for their students. There are some people who are really in their own space, but I think the people who made the most impression on me were the people who shared something. I have basically gone through everything. Yeah, I did. So you don't have to. You can ask me questions. I've got a bunch of things on that piece of paper which you can look at. And I didn't put my email address down, but you can share that with them. If really, and anybody that sees this, I feel sorry for you. You weren't here. 5 years down the road, can you imagine where you'll be 5 years down the road? I know it's hard. As musicians, I was in Boston, and I needed to work for a couple of years after college to make some money, and then I chose to leave the country. And this is before the Iron Curtain went up, and go to Europe and be an opera singer. So I went to Holland, because in Holland, they use the original language. They don't just do opera in German or opera in Italian. They do everything. So I sang Russian and Dutch and German and Italian. That's what I wanted, multilingual. And I was the resident Gershwin expert because there were no Americans there. So that was kind of fun. And Sondheim, oh, no. That's where I went, I don't like studying Sondheim. I don't like him. It's like, one of the teachers, what? In 5 years, what can you imagine? What can you imagine yourself doing? Any volunteers? What can you imagine, Taylor? It's hard, huh? Wishes. If wishes were come true, go ahead.
That's a very
Yeah,
tough question.
I know.
I mean, I try not to because it stresses me out.
Oh,
So I just like don't think
yeah, I get that.
about
Yeah.
it. Years go by and I'm like, do I know?
Yeah. Well, maybe you don't know. I mean, there's this whole philosophy too. It's like, yeah, you try that one day, it doesn't work, you do something else. I swore that if I didn't make a career by the time, whatever that is, as a musician, mostly, by the time I was 35, I was going to quit. You know, I got the job at 29, but I changed mostly from touring to teaching, and when I was 52, I've been teaching part-time. But I don't consider it done. I'm still working on stuff. And I am officially, you know, a person who doesn't collect a salary. So that's like, I have a part-time job, you know. But I'm very lucky. I worked most of my life. And there will always be a safety net there for you. I will make sure Social Security is still there for you. Yeah, well, and yeah, we've got to take care of this. Don't worry. Any ideas?
Hopefully we'll have gotten through grad school.
Okay.
Doing a young artist program or something.
Yeah, cool. Yeah. I'm a firm believer because I think we're none of us ready for anything until we've like really been around the people who are. I mean, this could be the place where everybody's driven to do something, and maybe in your community it is, and maybe it isn't. Yeah. The first time I didn't work when I was in school was when I was studying opera in Europe. When I was going to school in Holland, it was $200 a year because it was government subsidized. Yeah, in 1981. And then they took the government subsidies away, and granted, you know, then Germany became a whole country, and then we had the influx of singers from all over the world, so it was a little bit different. But yeah, I'm a total believer in being in a hothouse atmosphere for a while with really driven people. What do you think, Evie? Where do you want to be in 5 years? Yeah.
I don't know, I have a lot of things I want to do in 5 years.
Yeah.
I have this dream when I was younger, and I still want it to become reality if possible. But I know that I've been learning classical music for most of my life. I'm really interested in just contemporary pop music, and I used to write songs and all of that. So I dream that someday a record label would just like want to, you know, sign a contract or something.
Yeah, go
Like,
for it.
I want to be like a pop music artist or whatever. Yeah, and if that doesn't work, then maybe got into the Met Opera.
Yeah, honestly, you know, these are things that you work toward. You know, it's not unreal. It's just, that's what really I'm passionate about. And I will say that, you know, gosh, the only way to teach is to really, really, really care about what it is you do. And that passes on to everybody, the people you work with. And boy, if you find someone that's not really interested in doing what you're doing, bye. I've worked with so many pianists who just sat there and just delivered the notes. And then one time I went in for an audition and there's a pianist there saying, "Oh my God, you're going to sing Schubert." And I said, "Yeah." It was like, "Oh wow, nobody ever sings Schubert when they come to my auditions." I said, "Oh well, I do." And it was like, wow. And then the great thing was the director who was listening said, "You're going to sing Schubert? Oh my God!" Because people are coming in, you know, singing all those other people. But the big music, you know, like the Wagner and the Verdi. I'm not a Wagner and Verdi singer. I'm a Schubert singer. I'm a Mozart singer. And they were like, oh. And I got a job singing an opera aria that I had no business singing in a pastiche opera. But guess what? We made it work because I cared about it and they cared about it. And that was, you know, nothing big, nothing fancy. But I'm going to sing Schubert. Yes. Tell me, if you have any ideas. She's running this program right now, and then what else?
5 years from now, I'll be 26, so I want to be hopefully done with grad school. I want a cat.
Yeah.
And then I want to just be doing something that makes me happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm more sure of what makes me happy in my life.
Mm-hmm. That can, you know, that can change, right?
Right.
My first computer password was dog. It took me 10 years after I got my first computer before I got my first dog, but I got one. Yeah, I am so, there's just so much time. And luckily in our world, there's time and there's space. It seems daunting, but there is. I firmly believe it. I'm an optimist. Many people say. Anything else you need to know? I've grilled you enough. Anything?
I have a general question.
No.
So, with the little kids, despite the attention troubles, would you say it's easier for them to absorb information, for them to be like a sponge?
Well, they watch you like a hawk, so everything you do is seen. Everything you do is seen and noted and recorded, and it might not come out until 2 days later or 2 weeks later. As far as singing right now in groups, I would say it's not going successfully because they have had no models. If you're only listening to recorded music, you have not got the sound vibration. Some of the parents sing with the kids, some of the parents do not. I have a better rapport with, I'm a grandmother, a better rapport with grandparents who bring their kids because the grandparents actually check in about their music learning because the grandparents, people my age, had a lot more music education than the middle generation, sorry. They absorb everything, but they don't retain it. They need a lot of routine, so we do a lot of repetition. And they will catch you if you do a wrong lyric and they've learned it one way, forget it. If you try to teach doe a deer, a female deer, and they already know that, there's no way you're ever going to be able to change it. Because I sometimes try to, you know, I do doe, see doe, and they're like, what? You know, I try to upset their apple cart a little bit with the things they know. They will remember the way another teacher taught them a song, so you can't really change it. Yeah, that kind of thing.
Okay.
But they're very, and I wore a certain necklace one day, and then I didn't wear it for like 5 months. And oh, you're wearing that necklace again. I am. Oh, gosh. They remember. They record and they take. And when you're their third or fourth or 12th adult that they've met in their life, you know, it's like a whole thing. They latch on. Yeah, they're marvelous. And I will say that children who come from dual or trilingual families where they might speak another language with other kids or other people in their family, they have a harder time latching on to it at the younger ages, but by the time they're 5th or 6th grade, they're absolutely brilliant in the world. I have a multi-language Mandarin school, a 5-year-old who's confused now when I sing songs in English, but if I sing songs in Chinese, she's like right there. So that's obviously her primary motive. And I'm terrible at Chinese, but you know, I try. And she corrects me, which is good. Always give them a chance to make themselves higher on their own video. Yeah, sponges, definitely. Yeah, Tom.
I wanted to just ask you from your personal experience,
Mm-hmm.
how do you know it's a quote-unquote moment for a student or a child when it's like the prime opportunity for them to learn something? Because in my experience as a kid, when I was learning music, there was always a moment where the teacher was like so stressed out about capturing this moment and making me learn something on it. But like, I never really understood. I was like, what do I do?
Yeah. It's usually when it's repeatable, or usually when it's spontaneous. Like, if a kid comes into your classroom and they're singing a song that you taught them last week, that's a cool moment. Or when, you know, I'm fastidious about trying to start everything in the same key all the time, because I want them to actually sing in tune. on the pitch. And a little kid came in and they were trying to go, I can't remember something. Oh, cuckoo bird is it? No, that's not right. Cuckoo bird. No, he's trying to sing it to himself, but he can't remember what key it was in. And I just put my finger right here. And he was like, oh yeah, that's it. And when it's repeatable, and when it becomes part of the physicality of it, when you first sang your first low notes as a lower note singer, do you remember that moment where it felt like how physical it was?
Yeah, it was scary.
Yeah, scary physical. And that's the other thing. It's like, whoa, where did that come from? Yeah, because I've had kids, boys who have an issue, when they sing their first high A. But they have that skill. They just need to find a place for it. And it's scary, it's repeatable, and it's spontaneous. Because all revelation is like, ding, 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 ding. And you probably couldn't see the light bulb over your head. But everybody else in the room could feel it. It's weird. It's a weird thing. And yeah, those of us who make music a long time, those moments, I'm all for it. Yeah, I guess the same would be true if you heard someone speak a text that so resonated with you, and then you just went, the gasp in the room, there's that moment. And the person who's helping me out in the classroom is a pianist from here at school, and the first 2-3 weeks she was here, she kept gasping, because those moments happen a lot when you've got 16 under 5s, and all of a sudden you see them dance in a certain way. My gasp moment of the year, and I'll stop. The big thing this year was Nutcracker. I think I told you this story. The chorus sang Nutcracker. But a lot of kids are into Nutcracker. It seems to be the available thing that's not sectarian for Christmas, that has a story, that has children, that is fanciful. And I just started to play dum, 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 on the piano, and all of a sudden, 3 to 5-year-olds were like, they were dancing Nutcracker, like they've known it their whole lives. And that's the beauty of something like Tchaikovsky. It's so dramatic. So the other thing I've seen online, watch it. It's all over YouTube, the Trepok. It's all over YouTube. And huge choruses of 14-year-olds bouncing basketballs in the gym to the Trepok. So that's that moment where I saw them respond to that bit of music, which they were familiar with, a lot of them, and the other ones didn't know, but they just started to go, oh, there's a different feeling in the room. So it happens. Thank you so much for making time in your day. And be in touch if there's anything you need to know. As you can tell, I enjoyed it very much. So stay home and have a great rest of the weekend. Thank you. Thank you. Well, you're entirely welcome. Thank you for asking me. It's